But Brandon, let's move on into the next picks that I have on my mock draft, and you guys get a bonus these next two. The next two segments here, if you're on YouTube, Blog Talk Radio, you're just continuing right through like a champ because that's what you are. You get an extra pick. So the first segment was 10. The next two are 11 because there's 32 teams and not just 30 like there is for the NBA. So let's go through 11 through 21, starting it off the New Orleans Saints taking Derwin James, the safety from Florida State. Then the Cincinnati Bengals at 12 taking Connor Williams, the offensive tackle. The Redskins at 13 going Mason Rudolph, Brandon's Heisman winner. Then the Lions at 14 going with Deshaun Hand, the defensive tackle from Alabama. 15, the Colts going with Darius Geis, running back from LSU. Cardinals going Luke Falk, another quarterback. Dolphins going with Bradley Chubb, the defensive end. Browns with the Texans pick going with Malik Jefferson, going with the linebacker. Then 19, the Ravens going Christian Kirk, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. Then the Buccaneers go offensive tackle in Orlando Brown. And the Eagles round up this segment with the linebacker from Boston College, Harold Landry. And Brandon, we've got some guys that we're going to talk about in this one, but the first two that I want to hit, I lied and said we weren't going to talk about quarterbacks. I just meant that for the first segment because we've talked about Rosen, Allen, and Darnold enough, but we haven't talked about Luke Falk or Mason Rudolph enough. And I don't want to get into individually like what makes them what they are because we know at this point what they are. What I want to ask you is, let's say the Redskins at 13. They're a great team. They're a perfect team because Kirk Cousins is not going to be there after this season. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. If you can put yourself in the shoes of the head coach. You can put yourself in the shoes of Snyder. So Gruden or Snyder, if you're looking to draft a guy, either Falk or Rudolph, which one would you go with and why? If you needed a quarterback, not necessarily like you're the Redskins, but if you wanted a quarterback for your NFL system, who would you go with?
Mason Rudolph. And I'd go with Mason Rudolph because Mason Rudolph's playing against the better teams. Mm-hmm. And he's being put in.
Well, I wouldn't say, like, the Pac-12 isn't that much less. He goes up against Washington. Falk goes up against Washington.
Okay. Okay, but I still think that look at some of those other teams that he's going up against. They're not. I mean, as I guess you could say too, against the Big 12.
Well, they don't play defense.
They don't play defense. They don't play defense. I'll always hold strong to that. But he's going up against the teams like the Oklahomas, the Kansas States, the Western Virginias. Did I say Western Virginia?
You said Western Virginia.
Why did I say Western Virginia?
I don't know.
It's been a very fucking long day, man.
You meant the West. We know what you mean.
It's been a very long day.
We know what you mean. West Virginias.
And Western Virginia is another school.
Whoever goes to Western Virginia, they are very happy with now.
Oh, my gosh. I need to go to bed. But West Virginia, you're going up against, I think, better quality teams right there. And in the Pac-12, you're going up against USC and Washington.
Well,
I mean, what else? But what else do you want me to? What else would you like me to talk about with Mason Rudolph? He's got a better set of skills, I think, as a quarterback. He's got an extremely strong arm to be able to heave it down the field. He is very smart in terms of his reads and where he's going with the foot. The guy really doesn't mess up much.
And that's the big thing. When you look at his stat line, 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 4 INTs. Most people are saying, sign me up for that. Especially in the NFL, like, you want a quarterback to where it's going to be, don't turn over the ball. And that's what Mason Rudolph showed, especially from last year, that he doesn't turn over the ball well. And with the arm strength, although in college I feel like it's good, I have questions about it when we get to the NFL. Because, like, guys that try to live just on their arm strength, you got to be really good to be able to do that. Because the two sides of that, you can either be Brett Favre, who lived on his arm strength as a gunslinger and was able to have a successful career, or you could be Jay Cutler. So, I mean, there's two sides to the coin there. The thing that I think kind of separates these two into quarterbacks is you look at Rudolph, and like you said, doesn't make mistakes. He's got the frame that you want at 6'4", 233. He's got that mental makeup as a quarterback that you want. But then you look at Luke Falk, and the thing that you look at him is the good things are he's got tremendous accuracy. He's a rhythm passer. So if you have a system that can get him into short passes, kind of get him into a rhythm, kind of get that accuracy going. The main question, though, with him is he plays in a passer-friendly system thanks to Mike Leach. Can he get out of that? Can you pull him out of that and play in a more pro system that might not be as passer-friendly as he is used to? However, he is still going to rack up the yards. He actually had more yards than Mason Rudolph last year. And to me, it comes down to what do you want? The guy with the complete mental makeup and the frame, but the arm could be amazing or not that amazing. It's kind of a two-sided coin there. Or do you want the guy where it's like he's a rhythm passer, he is going to be accurate, but can he play in my system? And that's why with the Redskins, I picked Mason Rudolph only because of that, you know what, we need a guy that can start day one. We can't have any questions about our quarterback. We can't let the fans go out and roast us. And that's kind of what I saw with this and why I had the Redskins go with Mason Rudolph and then the Cardinals go with Luke Falk, because I kind of feel also that Bruce Arians is that kind of guy that fit the system, could bring in a Luke Falk. Okay, this is now your system. I am going to work with you to fit this system. Although Bruce Arians is a defensive-minded coach, still being the head coach, he'd work a little bit with Luke Falk. I want to ask you about the next guy, and we kind of mentioned him with Saquon Barkley, but I want to get more in-depth on him. I have the Colts going with Darius Geis. What do you think from Geis this year? Do you think, what does he need to do in your mind to be the number one running back off the board and maybe out of this bracket into the top 10? What does Geis need to do?
Well, he's going to need to stay healthy. He's going to need to stay healthy because that was, he came in for Leonard Fournette when Leonard Fournette got hurt. And then he needs to stay healthy. He was really good when he came in for Fournette, and then last year he got injured himself. So if he can't stay healthy, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really, really tough. And what I think is really interesting now, looking right at this, is that Arden Key will not. This goes back. Arden Key is not going to be playing in the game coming up.
Okay.
For
Saturday
for LSU. And then, so he won't be playing. And then, I'm sorry, I'm looking at that. And then Darius Geis is not 100%. He's not 100% guaranteed to play. And the reason why I bring that up is because this is so vital. This is so critical when any team is looking at a player. Now, having off-the-field issues is one thing. And the Dallas Cowboys will take you no matter what. But having lingering injuries, that could really hurt you. And it's like going out to the store and buying something doesn't really work or could break down at any moment, but you're going to get it because it's supposed to be the best.
I'm thinking I'm going to twist that a little bit. I don't want to spend as much money on the brand new thing, so I'm going to buy the used one. I'm paying less, but it might break on me because it's not the best used item that I could be getting. Or
knowing that it's one of the best items out there,
but it might flop.
But unfortunately, it could just go kaput at any minute.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be the guy that you go out in their draft. And Darius Geis has got to be able to shake the injury bug. And he's got to shake it early. Because if he doesn't, he will see his draft stock fall.
Well, and that's why, to me, the big question is, yes, you got to be on the field to do this. So your point kind of is a precursor to this. I want to see what you do with number 1 reps when you are the only guy in Death Valley for the Tigers. Because last year, came in for Leonard Fournette, but even when Fournette came back, it was kind of like a two-headed dragon there. They were still using both. They had the foot quickness of Geis and more of that power, but the acceleration of Leonard Fournette that they could still use. I still remember vividly in my mind at Dave's house watching, I want to say it was the Ole Miss LSU, and just watching Fournette blow down the sideline and put the defender in the ground like he was burying him in a grave. That's how hard he hit him running towards the end zone. And for Geis, my big question for him is, what can you do as the number 1 back? Because I'm going to bring Saquon Barkley back into the conversation that we talked about the first one. We know what he can do as the number 1 back. He did it last year. We know what he can do. Yes, his team is probably going to be fighting for a college football playoff spot, but push that off to the side. We know coming into this season what to, like, when you talked about Saquon Barkley, you were talking about expectations for this year, taking what you did last year and building off of that. For Darius Geis, you could still say, hey, building off of what you did last year. I mean, I told you about the 8.5 yards per carry in 2015, the 7.6 yards per carry in 2017, and that was while playing behind Leonard Fournette. But kind of now take a look at those numbers. Yeah, those are impressive numbers. It's not like the time where I accidentally said 6 yards per carry wasn't that good. Tennessee fans will still not let me hear about that faux pas that I said during the Tennessee preview, but I want to know, are those stats a little bit inflated? Are they inflated because of Fournette? Not necessarily saying that Geis is only good because he had Fournette, but are they inflated a little bit because of how LSU used you in tandem with Leonard Fournette? Now with Fournette not being there, how can you do as the number 1 guy?
That's always going to be an important question. It's always going to be important because I'll bring up a perfect example of, let's say, Lamar Miller. So Lamar Miller, everyone, he's in Miami. He does well in Miami. People wanted him to be the primary lead back there, but there was always somebody else kind of chained to him. Yeah. He was great, but people were like, get him off, get him out of there, because he can go and he can be his own guy and he can just take the load and go. So he goes to Houston. I've got him on my fantasy team, so I've got an invested interest in him. But he really, truly is a great example.
Again, no bias.
None. So he goes to Houston, and he's the lone guy. He is the lone guy. Alfred Blue would maybe spell him every once in a while. Yeah. He carries the ball well over 200 times, and he gets hurt because they used him too much. They leaned on him too much. And also they had Brock Osweiler, who's just awful.
So when you have a quarterback.
But that's also going to show when you're the only guy and there's not that really good dual, okay, we're going to use you in these situations. We're going to use you here. You're first and second. You're third and fourth. Or here, you're first, you're second, you're whatever. That's really important too, like you mentioned. And it shows how it can really wear down on a running back if they're not meant for that load, if they're not meant for that workload. And it's really interesting because sometimes it's not necessarily the running back, but it's how the head coach uses them. Yeah. How will Ed Orgeron use Darius Geis in his system when he's healthy? Is he the main primary back that he's not going to be spelling it much with anyone else? Or do they have somebody else they're going to be using too? I'm thinking they don't, but they want to put Geis out there because his talent is, his ceiling is out there. His talent is...
Is the ceiling the roof? Are we going MJ here? Well, is the ceiling the roof?
Didn't everyone know that?
It's always the roof?
Yes.
Is that what we're going with?
Yes.
Okay. But back to the point.
But to wrap up Geis is that he's good. But how good is he? And how will Orgeron be able to use him effectively with him being the primary runner there? You bring up a really good point with that.
And that's kind of interesting. I want to bounce off of what you just said because you kind of sparked a little nugget in my brain. Looking at Todd McShay, what he has for Darius Geis at the very end, he has his running style reminds him of Arian Foster, which I look and I go, okay, if you got the same, like Arian Foster didn't do too bad in the league. Had kind of a fizzle out towards the end, but what you were saying, more importantly, how is Orgeron going to use him, and the Lamar Miller example that you used, I thought of another example. This is on the other side. Now, I don't want LSU fans getting mad at me or anything, but
they will.
It could also be on the side of, think of Darren Sproles in the NFL. If you said Darren Sproles is my number one running back, I would be concerned. However, if you said, no, I've got, let's say, I don't know, Mark Ingram in front of him, then I'm going, okay. Like, Darren Sproles is a guy who, yeah, like not completely, I'm not comparing him to Geis. I'm just saying that he's not a guy that can be your number one, but he can be your number two. And he can he can add on to whoever the starter is. I kind of think also like a CJ Spiller when he was with Clemson, number one running back in the NFL, second, third stringer in the NFL. Ask the Bills how CJ Spiller was as the number one running back. He was good, not great. And Geis, I feel like this year is going to be the year where we tread that line. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to solidify yourself to where an NFL pro or an NFL scout can go, yes, this is our number one back? Or are they going to look at you and go, hey, you know what? You have a grade, and I'm just using McShay's for the sake of argument. Yeah, you have a grade of a 91, but can I use you as the everyday guy, or am I just drafting you to be the add-on to the number one guy? Like, is that what I'm drafting you for? So that's going to be my big question when we get to the draft and when we get to, and there's a ton of things that can change. That's another stipulation I didn't say at the beginning, is there's a million different ways this season could play out. That's why this is the preseason mock draft. But the last guy I want to ask you about, because we got to talk defense. We can't talk offense for the entire middle part of this draft. I want to ask you about the guy I have going last to the Eagles, I believe, the 21st pick. Yeah, the Eagles I have selecting Harold Landry, Boston College, outside linebacker. Last year led the nation in 16.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles in the 2017 campaign. Yes, he's an explosive edge rusher and has a burst off the outside, but this is a question I'm going to ask you because this is the team we actually opened up our college previews with. Is playing for Boston College going to hurt him, though, to where not necessarily, oh, you're on a bad team, you must suck, but the national spotlight isn't on you enough like it is on an Arden Key that we talked about in the first segment?
No, it won't hurt you because you're an NFL team. You've got NFL scouts. Mm-hmm. They know if they do their job well, they know where the good guys are. Doesn't matter if you're on the worst team. Doesn't matter if you're on the best team. Mm-hmm. If you're on the best team, yeah, you're right out there in the spotlight. Everyone can see you. Mm-hmm. They can see your mistakes. They can see your screw-ups. They can see your good things. They can see your bad things. You are on a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're not seeing it on TV, but they've got scouts there. So it's not going to hurt him. It's not going to hurt him being at Boston College. If you're good, people will find you. They will. They absolutely will. Mm-hmm. And if, like I said, if NFL team scouts are doing their job as good as they should be, they'll find him. There will be no problem, and a team will snag him up real quick.
Well, and the two guys, I'm gonna link one guy to him really quick because we're at the end of this segment. Harold Landry and Malik Jefferson, two guys that I have in this kind of 18 to 21 range at the end of this mini segment of this segment. They're the two guys I want to look at linebacker wise this year because they were the first two linebackers taken off my board in this preseason mock draft. I had not had a linebacker taken before I had the Browns go ahead and take Malik Jefferson. I'll be honest, I'm going to do it again. Only reason I had the Browns go with Jefferson is that, like, I don't know if there's a corner here that I necessarily want to reach on. I don't need an edge rusher on the line. I'm going to go with a linebacker. I'm going to go with Malik Jefferson, can play sideline to sideline and complement Jabril Peppers. They will need to separate themselves this season because Harold Landry, he is going to be an effective NFL player. I can just see it. Like, he'll be the guy that is an NFL player to where you're going, where did he go to college? Boston? He went to Boston? Kind of like Matt Ryan, where you go, you're just sitting there with your buds. You're like, dude, where did Matt Ryan, look it up. Where did Matt Ryan go to college? What? He went to Boston College? Huh? But they're not even that good.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of pro that Harold Landry, I project that he'll be. Jefferson, to me, is sitting right there. They're sitting with him. It's going to be which one kind of separates themselves from the other. Landry, effective, explosive edge rusher. Malik Jefferson, a guy who can play outside, inside, can play sideline to sideline for your team. That's kind of the way that I have each of them going. But I want to turn this on to you guys. Let us know down below, what do you think of any pick that we have here for 11 through 21? And then kind of anything we talked about, the quarterback situation, the conversation we had between Rudolph and Falk. Who would you like better for your team if you were an NFL coach? Darius Geis, what do you think of him this season? And then kind of the more so Harold Landry, but also I threw in Malik Jefferson there as well, kind of the linebackers in this year's draft that we are going to see this season. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.